Catalyst for change with the chance to thrive. Crystal is the one to stir up gifts and save lives. You get exposure, promotion, and marketing too. And advertise for business owners just like you. On Storytime, your interview is global. Virtual or in person, just come on the show. Yo, your story matters. Crystals will open the door. 40 years of experience, ready to give you more on Storytime. Get ready for Storytime. Hey, come on.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm sorry. It seemed like the technical difficulties. I think we're having technical difficulties today. Today is the day for technical difficulties. So y'all forgive me. I know I heard it on my end. I'm not sure if you heard it on your end, but hello. Welcome to Story Time. I am so excited yet again to be here and to have another episode where we just talk to everyday people. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing because the reason for this show is to help individuals to share their life story and that it may possibly help someone else. All right, that's what it's all about. So if you don't know what story time is about, let me just show you. Story time is a place where human beings connect through life experiences. Okay. And while you're here, we just ask if you will like, share, and comment. And we're normally here on Wednesdays and Sundays at 8 p.m. Right. And each and every time that we do this, we bring on individuals that we know personally for some of them, and others we may not know, but we have met them online, or just people that we've reached out to because we feel as though they have a story that is worth sharing. So once again, I'm going to ask you while you're here, just do me a favor. Just like, share, and comment and subscribe to the channel because I guarantee you're going to see something that will bless you. All right. And first, I'm going to ask you to do this. Take a moment and share this live with about 5 friends. Share with about 5 friends because I guarantee you it is going to be life-changing for you. Okay. This young lady that I'm talking to today, I happen to know personally. We all went to the same school, and it's just sincerely a blessing to be able to speak to her. And I'm going to show you a picture, and you may recognize her. That is her and her baby girl, but you may recognize this face right here. And some of you know her because of her affiliation with Delta Sigma Theta. But yes, I'm talking about Miss Valerie Bishop. Valerie Bishop. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to take a moment because I think I see her. I think I see her on the back row. So I want to go ahead and bring her on up and see if she's there. Valerie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
All right. Good evening. Good evening. How are you feeling today?
You'd be tired sometimes, but you know what? For the most part, I feel fabulous. I do. I do.
Excellent. 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 I want to say, I've been talking to you about this for a minute. So I'm so excited that we are here, and that you are able to share the story. You know what I'm saying? That you have the victory and that you have overcome the obstacles that you had in front of you and that you can share the testimony. That's a blessing.
It is. Yes, it is.
It is truly a blessing. So, what I always do, Valerie, when I start out is I always start out because some people may not know you. So, I always ask my guests first to start out by sharing who is that person. So, my question always is tell my guests and the people that are going to come that are watching live and the ones that will come back later on who is Valerie Bishop?
Well, who is Valerie Bishop? She was just a little nobody person. That's all, a little somebody. Um, I originally, as you say, a New York. I'm an original New Yorker. However, I was born there, but I was raised right here in beautiful North Kakalaki, near the coast in a small town near New Bern, North Carolina, but it's called Cove City. I went to elementary through high school in Craven County school system. And when I graduated, I decided it was so many things I did want to do. I wanted to be a fashion designer. However, back then, There were no schools in North Carolina that allowed you to go out of state, go do it in state. You had to be out of state. And of course, country folk did not believe in that. That was too much money. So I looked at several schools here locally. It was ECU, Appalachian State, and NC State. Those were my choices. I got accepted to all three. But then when I talked with my parents, she was like, well, ECU would be a good place. Then you can commute back and forth. I said, oh, no, let me go a little further. So I ended up here in Raleigh going to North Carolina State University. Um, I was there. I was physically there, but I wasn't mentally there, if that makes sense. I made a lot of connections, but I was just kind of floating through because I was not doing what I really wanted to do. So from there, my senior year, I ended up going to beauty school because it was right there in walking distance from my dorm over at North Hall. And that's where I started my journey in the hair industry. It was so funny. The last person that you featured, James Montague, we started cosmetology together. So I thought that was really ironic. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, you just featured him right before me. So me and James, we do know each other from way back in 1989. Also from there, my parents, especially my mom, she was totally disappointed. Like, I know you're not a rising senior at NC State and you're gonna quit and do hair. So of course I had to prove her otherwise. But along my journey and along my way, I did prove her otherwise, and I became very successful in the industry. But I still had that urge and that need to want to go back to school and finish up what I started. So during my time in different clientele, from people from the state, from financial aid advisors, that's how I started connecting with a lot of them and other professionals. Um, Miss Wanda White, and I'm name dropping here, who is now Dr. Wanda White. I send shout outs to her because she was one of the ones, and also I congratulate her for just crossing those burning sands with Johnson County Alumni Chapter. She was one of the first ones that got back with me because she was my client at the time. And she said, Valerie, you need to go back to school and finish up what you started. I don't want you to lose that credit that you have at NC State, because back then, and I don't know if they still have it now, it was a 10-year window. When you started, you had to complete. So at this time, she has now evolved from being a financial aid advisor at NC State to being a director at Livingston College. And currently, she was then the director of financial aid at St. Augustine's College, then now university. So that's how I ended up becoming a Falcon and going back to school at St. Aug and having that experience of both. And so I graduated from St. Aug in 2002. Then from there, I just continued on working in the hair industry. And also, I going back to school and applying myself and getting my master's degree. And then I ended up also, coming out of the salon, but still doing the salon, and started teaching at Wake Tech as a cosmetology instructor. And now currently I'm an academic advisor.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so you have a full scope of things that you did. And what was the experience like between the two, NC State and
I,
HBCU? Tell me about that for a moment before I go back to your childhood. Interesting.
absolutely.
I would love to see and hear, what is that like? What is the comparison?
And this is one thing, I'm glad you brought that back, because this is one thing that I have the opportunity to kind of share and tell people. I have that experience on both sides. um I'll say for PWI, as we like to call them, you got all the resources, you have all of this and the that and the glam and the bling and all that. However, what you don't get most of the time at that PWI that you get at that HBCU is that close family net, the camaraderie. Um, I'm gonna tell you one of the most profound professors that really impressed me, and I didn't even get to know my professors like that at NC State. If they were Black, yes, but other than that, you really didn't. However, Dr. James Seymour, he was Dr. James Seymour, and he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was over the religion department at St. Aug. I have never in my life met someone so profound and so humble at the same time. And it's like all the students on campus, they they gave him mad respect, especially the guys. When they see him coming or they're getting ready to pass, hey, they'll take their hats off. Hey, Dr. C. Hey, he had mad respect on campus. And that
Wow.
he was that turning point for me, coming back and doing the Gateway program at St. Aug.
Wow. So is it exaggerated when people talk about the HBCU vibe and compared to what it's like at other institutions that are not HBCUs, in your opinion?
I think now it has definitely grown because I can say I also have lived vicariously through my daughter's eyes, being that she was able to attend there because she started out at a HBCU. So her version was a little bit different. And it was during COVID where she graduated in 2021 and she went to Clark Atlanta. She
Mm,
stayed there a semester because she came from Ravenscroft. So she was used to all the resources and having everything and, having access. And that was major then, and it is still now. Then she took in consideration the amount of money I'm paying and what I'm experiencing right now wasn't fitting. And
hmm.
when she came to that PWI, she was nervous and scared that she was not going to get that same bonding effect. And I think comparing my years back in the from 85 to 89 to her 2022 to 25, I think there's more bonding that is created now with the groups of minorities that are
Yeah.
on the PW campuses.
Okay.
I think that's what makes the difference. So they network, they have more support systems, they have more diversity groups, and I think that improves it. But as far as that experience, that vibe, oh, nothing beats a HBCU, especially homecoming. We already know that.
Yeah.
Homecoming, everybody's got a homecoming they want to go to. And I love NC State homecoming, but it's something about a HBCU homecoming. It puts a different little spin on
Wow. So take me back, Valerie, to New York. What part of New York? I forgot about that girl. What part of New York was you born?
it. Now, don't go too deep. Don't go too deep. And my parents, they met in New York when they were in their early teens, and that was in the Bronx.
Oh
So
Lord, you were
I
doing
know
good.
it back then. Yeah, back then it was like the all women's hospital, and I was born there, and that's all I can tell you. I stayed up there maybe until I was like about 3 or 4, and you know how it was back then. Your grandparents like ship them children down here. Y'all don't know what to do with them babies, and send them down here. So I ended up coming to my grandparents who raised me.
That's really interesting that you were there at such a young age and you still claim it and
I
you
do.
still mention it. Because I know I've been there all my life until I was an adult. And some people were like, Crystal, give it up, give it up. You've been here since 1986. You are North Carolina now. I said, I'll never be a North Carolinian. So it's
But see,
interesting,
you still have the accent and everything. So
but it's just in my heart. Now, when you were a child, coming up as a child, what kind of personality did you have then? Was you somebody that sat around doing hair? And did you think I'm going to be a cosmetologist because you played with the Barbie dolls? Is that how this all started for you?
it didn't. The crazy thing was I always knew I like to be different. I always had this thing about being different, dressing different, having a different flair. So the fashion design thing, I guess, started coming into play. And I'm name dropping again. Miss Belinda Hargett from Cove City, and we affectionately call her Bun. God bless her soul. She just passed a couple of weeks ago. Sherry, I'm still sending my love out to you. She was my seamstress. She was the
Okay.
one that played into these different dreams that I had about creating this and creating that. And as far as I was the only child,
Right.
so I'm an only child to an only child. And so all you had was time on your hands to sit and create and figure out. Yeah, you have first cousins and this, that, but it's that time you have alone and you just sit back like, how can I be different? So that's kind of, it started playing there. But then because I couldn't always be doing fashion design or getting into that, then I realized I was pretty decent at hair. So I would braid some of my classmates' hair. I would do little stuff here and there, but nothing major until I left home.
Okay. And then wind up in the classroom too. I know you love that classroom experience is something, girl. I used to be in the classroom too, and I had to get out of there because I said I'm gonna hurt somebody.
Uh,
Back then, I
that,
started in the classroom in Brooklyn, as a matter of fact, Brooklyn and then the Bronx. And I said, no, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. I didn't go to school for it. I went to school for business. So how do you enjoy being in the classroom? That part of your life. How do you enjoy that? Because you do
You,
administrative work in the schools, and then you've been in the classroom as well, correct?
well, going into cosmetology is a little bit different because it's a skill set that it's mostly a lot of hands-on, but you do have that side of it where you are teaching from the books. Say it might be the chemistry side and the pH scales and the relaxers, and you got to know all the background drop because you have so many people now on that are learners, as you would say, and they think they can get everything and learn everything, but there's still a science to it. And that's what I would try to bring out, that science side. So teaching, it was integral because I always thought about more of the classroom because since I knew how to do it, I said, well, I could easily show you. But then when, like you said, when you had to do the more of the manual side of teaching straight from the book, that came with a little bit of practice. So you did have to have your licensure before you could teach, of course, and it's a different licensure for cosmetology than it is for regular teachers. So that took me a minute, but I'm gonna name drop again. Paula Askew, my former boss at Wake Tech, gave me an opportunity. I had started out at Millamont, which was a private institute. I didn't like how they were doing and treating students as far as with the financial aid and all that, because they were kind of getting over. So I had said, I'm never going to teach again. I don't like how this is set up. And Paula Askew actually gave me an opportunity at Wake Tech back in 2012. She said, normally I would never hire anybody that has never, that just challenged the board, because I just challenged the board after so many years to start teaching. She normally would have somebody that had been already working and did like, in-house training. And she said, I'm gonna take a chance on you. And I think she never regretted that. Did you?
Wow. Okay. That's excellent. Excellent. And I love the way that you name drop and haven't forgotten the people that gave you opportunities and that impacted your life. People need to do that more because a lot of times they wait till they give people flowers after they're gone. So I love the fact that you are acknowledging the people who planted seeds in your life. That's good. Now you're certified, is it what do you call it?
A
Trichologist?
trichologist, yes.
And what is that?
And trichology is the study of hair and scalp disorders.
Oh,
I got that certification years ago before a lot of people are now getting more and more into it, back in like early 2000s. And that was my thing. I would just jump from one thing to the other. And I was like, I want to do this because nobody else is doing that. I want to do this because nobody else is doing that. And so it's just like, I don't know if it's that ADHD because my mind be all over the place. But yeah, so that is like a specialty where you discover the different disorders. That'll be alopecia
I was gonna
and
say with that alopecia,
psoriasis and all those different types of things. Yes.
and that's good because it's helpful. People need that, so that's good. And then you also went into a field of nursing. You did a little bit of nursing with the health. I see you got that part in you. Now, how much did
Baby,
you dip into the nursing and the healthcare?
I went and got my CNA license thinking, okay, I want to do, what was it? Sonography. So it was like radiology sonography. And back then they required that you would get your CNA because they said that'd be a good way to see if you want to be in the medical field. So I got that certification. Let me explain something to you. I praise the people that do it. I praise them unconditionally. It's a lot of hard work for low pay. Unless you get private practice people do make much more money. I did it for a very short time. We're talking about, I did it with Wake Med in their rehab center. Anybody with nursing, they know how that rehab center is set up. It's vicious. And then I transitioned over and I was working like the front desk with Rex Hospital. So I stayed there at Rex Hospital for a few years, just working the medical side, like the office side.
Okay, so which industry did you enjoy the most, or do you enjoy the most?
I guess I could say I'll speak from the fact that I've been in cosmetology for 35 years. I was consistent with that. Some of these other jobs, they were part-time. Cos was always my full-time gig, as you say, because you enjoyed it. You could do it with your eyes closed. But when my health started shifting, I had to start shifting with that. I think what really started taking me away from, and I can't say it took me away, but it did take me away from my clients, which a lot of my clients, they didn't want to let me go. I still have people that want me to still do their hair now, and I really don't do it as much because I don't have a physical location. I would travel sometimes, and do things for people. But it was like, as my health started shifting, and I'm not knowing that some of these effects that I was seeing was kidney related, it started slowing down and deteriorating. I saw it more so because that's why I couldn't do hair outside of the school as much. So I had to pull back from my clientele and just focus on my full-time job.
So let's talk about that a minute. So you brought that up. I know that, and I was going to talk because I know you taught at Wake Tech. So yeah, you did a lot of different things. So we know that you're very ambitious. We know that you're very motivated. We know that you are really gifted and talented, enthusiastic, all those great things. So life happened. And then you started to experience some things in your body during your work career. And I always tell people we have to pay attention to, our bodies. We need to know ourselves. So, Valerie, when did you first realize that something was happening with you?
I was thinking about that right before you started the podcast, and I want to say my first signs were like back in late 2014. It was like around November, December of 2014. And I think I know my coworkers at Wake Tech in the cause department definitely remember this, because I came to work the next day and I had like all these fine little red dots all over my legs. And I had just got a dog, my little Bodie, my little Shih Tzu, who's laying right here at my feet. And they said, "Oh, your dog must have fleas." I said, "What are these dots?" And they said, "Sweet." I said, "My dog ain't got no fleas." And so we laughed it off or what have you. And then those little dots started turning into like bigger pustules. I'm not trying to be too graphic. And they were itching, they were irritated, and it got to a whole thing where it was inflamed. And
Mm.
I'm like, okay, something is not right. It was to the point at one point that I couldn't even wear my shoes to work. I had to wear bedroom shoes, even though I know the young folks, they wear bedroom shoes all the time now. No, I literally had to wear shoes that did not grasp around the ankles because the lesions were so big and they were so painful. It was like cakers. And so when I finally went to the doctor, I was diagnosed with something called vacuolitis. And I was like, I had never heard of it before in my life. I'm like, what is this? And they said it affects the small blood vessels. And it was like an autoimmune attack to my body. So it took about almost 6 months for that to clear up. That was, I think, my really first sign of something was off with my body. Prior to that, I never had high blood pressure. I never had diabetes. I never had anything, no weight issues. I was physically fit. Blood, everything always was even killed. When that kicked in, that kind of started the process of other things happening. I used to have issues with I'll be in the salon doing hair, and then all of a sudden my fingers would lock up, and then it would go from my fingers locking up to my toes locking up. I'm like, what in the world? What's going on? So it was symptoms like that from the vacuolitis, and then it switched into the locking up of my limbs as far as my fingers and my toes, and couldn't figure out what was going on.
Did you go see somebody about that? When you started getting those with the fingers and the toes?
I did, because at that same time, right after the vacuolitis was diagnosed, they did a biopsy of it, trying to see what it was got, because they were kind of confused of what was bringing it about as well. So finally, my doctor, he looked at and you see, it starts running into other things. He started realizing, okay, you've got a lot of protein showing up in your urine. So I'm going to refer you over to a nephrologist. And it took a couple of different nephrologists to figure out, you know what, you have something called HSP. It was a Duke nephrologist that figured it out. And HSP is like a short term for this type, is henoch purpura. It's like a IgA vacuolitis. And usually it's identified with younger people and they usually outgrow it. But when an adult gets it, they usually don't outgrow it. It usually stays with them and it'll eventually balance out, or it'll escalate into like a kidney disease.
Well, I tell you what. So at this point now, you're going to the doctor. You're checking into things. You're in tune with your body. You're paying attention, and then through this process, I'm sure, are you communicating with your daughter? Because a lot of
Oh,
times
absolutely.
people keep things from their children and their family members. Did you go through this by yourself or did you include her?
No, when I say I include her with all that, even though she was much younger, she was there to see it. Even though I was divorced at the time, or separated or divorced, I was divorced at the time. I had to think about it. Um, it was just me and her, and it's always been mostly me and her. And so I never kept anything from her, especially when it was concerning anybody, any of our health. And so she's always been my biggest cheerleader. She's always been there with me outside of my network of friends. A lot of my clients became more than just clients. They became friends because they were long-time clients that most of them I had done anywhere from 15, 20, 25, almost the whole 30 years I've been doing hair. So a lot of them knew because they wanted to know what was going on. So you had to keep a circle because it got to the point where, Zoe was younger and I needed to go to doctor's appointments. I have nobody to watch her. So I would get a client, when I say your village is far, is mine is it's broad and wide. And it goes from state to state, and I thank God for that each and every day. The people that He has put in my life, I realize that the journey that I have taken is what I supposed to have taken. It is not perfect by no means, but it has been blissful when I look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, because fast forwarding, I know I've seen you talk about even the people who donated to you and that relationship that you have with them, which I know is so rare. And we'll talk about that too, how that process happened. Because a lot of people, I've known people to have kidneys issues, to go through dialysis, to be on the waiting list, and to do all of those things. And I know that takes time. So that process for you, how long did that process take for you to be on the wait list before you found a match? Because at the end of the day, after you kept going through tests, they then just determined it was the kidney, right?
Yes, eventually what happened, so let me see. So from 2014 or well, early 2015, by this time, okay, nephrology, kidneys, it's on the radar, but it's not like I'm still at stage 3. If people don't know, there are 5 stages to kidney disease or chronic kidney disease. So I was like right there at that midpoint where they weren't really a big concern, but they were like, we're gonna keep it monitored. Maybe it's something that we can start, figuring out. I went from multiple doctors. I had one doctor that had me on prednisone and like 30 milligrams a day. Anybody that's familiar with prednisone, 30 milligrams, that's
Wow.
major. I was like a blowfish. So when I came back to school, students were like, Miss Bishop, what is going on with you? And I said, honey, it's the meds. Just work with me. It's the meds. And I always find humor
Yes.
in everything that I do. You have to, because we are not a person that's going to go without. My thing is, life is going to happen to you regardless. You can think you have the perfect life and like, woe is me. I never ask why. It just happens. You just go with the flow. So the thing was, with the going to the multiple doctors and having multiple kidney biopsies. A couple of times they couldn't figure out, they were inconclusive. They didn't know what was going on. They just wanted to keep upping the meds. So I stepped away for about a year and a half, and I said no, because the reaction from the prednisone, I was having allergic reactions to the point that it was just affecting me mentally as well,
Right.
because it had you paranoid. It had you, I couldn't sleep at night. It was just crying spells. It was just a whole lot of craziness. And I said, itching all through the night. I said, I can't do this. So I kind of stayed away from the doctor for a minute just to see how things would balance out. Seemed like everything was going fine. I wasn't having any reactions. Then all of a sudden, around 2021, and that's the year Zoe got ready to graduate because we were coming out of COVID. A lot of things we were looking forward to seeing, and now we were like crushed with COVID because I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to see my only child graduate. I'm not going to see her with prom. I'm not going to see this. I'm not going to see that. And I was really in a low place when that was occurring. And then all of a sudden that window opened up just enough. I said, Lord, I thank you. To where Ravenscroft said, you know what? They made a last minute decision. We're going to let the seniors have prom. We're going to let them have a graduation. And it wasn't going to be virtual. It was going to be in person. Well, that same week, when she had all this stuff planned for school, graduation, this award show, that, I had already did my second, well, third or fourth biopsy. And I had to do a follow-up with Chapel Hill with my nephrologist. And this time I have a team because they were looking at me like, okay, we got to figure out what's going on with her. My kidney function went from a 3 to a 4. While I'm there at the follow-up, they were like, Miss Bishop, and they brought in like 5 other people, and they said, you're approaching kidney failure. I said, excuse me? I was just at 3 and everything was good. He said, yeah. She was like, yes, but something has shifted. It's very aggressive. I said, okay. And it still hadn't clicked. I would say, you told me kidney failure. Oh, okay. But then what happened after that, I said, so when you say kidney failure, what are we talking about? What is the function of my kidney? He said, out of 100 or 90-something%, we're talking 16, 17% function.
Let's stop there for a minute. In case there's somebody watching that really doesn't understand what the purpose of their kidney is in their body. Because one of the things I like to see is that people learn from other people's testimonies, and they may have a family member or something. So did you begin to do research to learn about, because he says 16%, but did you fully understand, like, what does your kidney do for you and why it is a problem if you're only functioning at 16%? Can you tell somebody who may be watching why that is alarming and why that's concerning if your kidney is not working?
Coming from somebody that has never had any health issues, and I'm going to take you back to that mindset. It didn't register. And when she said, for whatever reason, by this time, when she said 16, 17%, it made me emotional. It made me somewhere thinking, am I even going to live long enough to see my daughter, go to college? Am I this? Am I that? And it was just an overwhelming feel. And when we talk about kidneys are our filtration system. The kidneys remove the waste in our body. So it is an essential organ we must have. It's like right after the heart, the brain, and the lungs. Kidney and liver, you gotta have one. If you don't have one, you're gonna have that machine or something doing it for you. So that's how crucial your kidneys are. Yes, we have 2 of them that does the filtering, but for me, because I had a rare kidney disease, and it wasn't from the normal way of getting it, like diabetes or high blood pressure, both of my kidneys were failing. Usually there's a case where sometimes one is failing and not the other. Well, for me, both were failing. And so when you start talking about, and I have to have a little notes here, so y'all bear with me. When you start talking about different stages of kidney disease, if you're like at stage 1 and they're talking about CKD or chronic kidney disease, where your stage 1 is not even relevant. It's like you're still at 90% or more functioning. Stage 2, you're anywhere between 60 to 89% functioning. Stage 3, anywhere from 45 to 30% functioning. Stage 4 is when you get to 15 to 29% functioning. And what is considered renal failure or severe damage to the kidneys is stage 5, when it's less than 15% functioning.
Wow. And so look at you now. Like when I look at you and I said, look at her, look at her. I just want to go over here and say, God, no glory. Let me just look over here at this right here. And I'm going to put this up here so we can see you. Look at you. Look at you. You don't look like what you've been through, girl.
That is so funny. That picture right there, that was before my kidney transplant.
Wow. And so you weren't wearing it. So you were not wearing what you were going through. Some people say count it all joy. And some people say the joy of the Lord is their strength. I have to say, looking at you here, you must have been one of them people, because you definitely don't look like what you were going through.
I guess I can look at it and I can see it in my eyes, because you know how we can be hardest on ourselves. when it comes to something. And that was the only place I really saw it. It was in my eyes, because my skin started getting a little darker. My eyes stayed a little bit more puffier. Not so much jaundice, but you could tell it was a little bit more yellowing in your eyes, and
Wow.
that's where I could tell where it was going. And the thing was, with kidney failure, you stay tired a lot. Um, you get lightheaded a lot. Um, you have cramping issue. Oh my God, cramping in the middle of the night. That became a major issue prior to even being in renal failure. That was another piece I forgot to tell you, where your legs will lock up at any point in time in the middle of the night and just jump you out of the bed. And it was on a regular, it won't just sparingly, it was all the time. You had so many different little side effects after the fact. Now you're like, wow. Going up a flight of stairs was a struggle because I'd be winded. But like I tell people, I don't know why I make things look easier than what it is, because that's just my personality. I don't like to complain, and I just push through. And so for that, I was pushing through.
Wow, wow, wow. Let me ask you this right here, because I'm looking at you. You said your baby girl, this one right here, your graduate, you said that she was there, you included her in everything. Congratulations. You said I didn't know if I was going to see her graduate. Talk to me about how you felt watching her graduate after knowing what you've been through and just being in the moment. What did this feel like for you?
It took me back, this moment here, and I'm gonna try not to get emotional. It took me back to her high school graduation, because in 2021, that's when they were hitting me with everything and saying, you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to do that, you're not going to be able to go to her graduation. I said, wait, 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 wait. The tears dried up immediately. I said, you know what I am going to do, I've already planned to be to her graduation. I've already planned her graduation party. Matter of fact, that Monday after she graduated from high school, I said she is gonna go. We had planned an 18th birthday celebration in Jamaica with some of my close,
Wow,
13 of our closest friends. I said,
wow,
I'm going out of the country. They were like, no, Miss Bishop, you cannot go out of the country. And the day they gave me all this diagnosis was prom. And they said, this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna let you go home. I said, y'all gonna mess up. You let me go home. We're gonna let you go home, and we're gonna give you a call, because we're gonna look at your results and see if it's okay. Because really, you need to be in the hospital right now. And that's when I just stood 10 toes down. I was like, mm-mm, not today. I ain't going nowhere. Not today. And I guess God has said, this honorary sister of mine's here. Jesus whiz. Soon as
wow.
my daughter pulled off for prom, what happened? They called me. My phone rang. I was still standing outside in the yard. And I looked and I answered. I said, yes. They were like, Miss Bishop? I said, yes. We were just calling to let you know. And I'm just like, you can tell me whatever you want to. In my mind, it was already made up. And this was me being hard headed. And they said, you know what? It looked like you may be stable at 16, 17%. So we're not going to bring you in the hospital. So I was able to still do everything. They told me, we don't want you to go out of the country. I said, oh, okay. I done bought tickets. I done did this. Deposits been made. Now, fast forward, that I've had the transplant since then, and to be able to follow her, we were doing that photo shoot, and to follow her all over campus. I said, girl, I already know how big state is. Okay, I'm somewhere out of breath, but
So this,
and that was high school.
so this is when you went through it, when she was at this stage. So you
Yes,
went from here to here,
yes,
and look at you now. You look from there to there. So that's a beautiful thing. So when you were here, you still had that joy. You still
yes.
had that smile. So they didn't take your joy from you. So let's talk about that for a moment. You have to be a woman of faith or something, because I don't see any fear in you at all. I see nothing but faith. Am I correct in saying that?
That you are correct. You are correct. I mean, there is fear. And you know how we, as everybody, people that are strong-willed or
Mhm,
determined, we hide it. So we deal with our fear factors in closed doors.
mhm,
We deal with a lot of things behind the scenes. Like I told somebody, when I had to do dialysis, I couldn't see myself doing dialysis. Is it called, where you had to go in and do the dialysis? I couldn't do that. my mindset couldn't wrap around that. And they told me that was the hemo dialysis. And I said, well, do you have anything else that you could offer? Because I didn't like the smell of the blood. I didn't like, it was just too much. And you had to get the shunt in your arm, and it takes 4 months for that to heal. And if you don't need dialysis before then they have to put the shunt here in your chest. And that's more invasive. You get more infection. It was just so many different factors. So they have PD, which is peritoneal dialysis, where you can do from home. However, they said we don't allow everybody to do that. That is not something we suggest for everybody, but apparently I passed the test and they allowed me to do it from home. And I think some of my lowest points were when I had to come home and do the dialysis, because, you know, this is something totally different.
Yeah.
I was a little hard headed again, because when you agree to do that, you're supposed to have somebody with you at all times.
Okay.
And what I didn't have, because my daughter was off to college, so I had people coming in checking on me, but at night I had to be on that machine 8 hours, sometimes 9 hours at night. The first couple of times I did it, it was kind of rough, and I actually had passed out on the floor. I can tell it now. And I was so disillusioned. All I kept doing was calling on the name of Jesus. And I said, Lord, you got me on this. You got me. I know I'm crazy. I know, work with me. Just work with me. And I just disconnected everything. And I made it through the night, and I called my nurse and told her what had happened. And it's like I said, it's so much with it. It's the biggest part with dialysis and your choices is education. And a
Yeah.
lot of our people, because we are considered some of the high risk people for having to be put on dialysis, is being educated on it. And I wanted the freedom, so that's why I chose to do the PD. And the PD is based out of your stomach. So they actually end up putting a tube in your stomach, and there are pictures, you wouldn't even know which pictures they are, where I had the tube, but I had it taped down, and I went to functions, I went to parties. I even, and this is something my mom didn't even know, if she see this video, she will know. The weekend before I had my surgery, I told you I'm a daredevil. My line sister had a 40th birthday party in Florida. I was in Florida like 24 hours before my surgery.
Now, so let's talk about that a moment. You talked about your line sister. So, being a no, I got a better picture that I want to use than that one. Being a Delta, I'm sure that you had some people that were in your corner that were helping you through this process, that were there. Talk about that for a moment. Um, how that community was there for you through this process, or how being a part of this organization helped you get through the process.
When I say prayer warriors, and let me just say this, when it comes to my circle and my village, phenomenal, hands down. I had my village from home, my hometown. First of all, let me start in order. What got it all started, and I wasn't even trying to put this on TV, because you know it had made it the news and all that. How it got on TV was because of one of my former students, Dyra. Um,
It was on the news.
yeah, it was WTVD 11. It was featured, and it started off by being, let me get it right. Um, Dyra Gonzalez actually got in contact with Joel Brown, and it was on WTDD 11. I can give you the exact dates. The first time it was featured March the 15th of 2022, and it was titled "Beloved Wake Tech Professor Desperately Needs a Kidney Transplant." That all made the news because one of my former students, Dyra, she had some connections, and she ended up having Joel Brown to reach out to me. So he featured my story. And then from there, he followed all along. That was back, like I said, March of 2022. He then did a follow up the day of our surgery, which was November of was it November 21 of 22.
Okay, okay. Well, I think that let me see something. I think I can locate that. I know I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that.
Yeah,
That was
like I said, so I had to start, go back to the beginning. So she was the one that got it started because I wasn't going to try to put it on the news. And what Dara did, because you got some students, and you can probably vouch, some students they know how to work your heart. And she was one of those ones. She always was concerned and asking, "Hey, how you doing? How you feeling?" I said, "Girl, I'm good, you know." And this is before I had health issues. And then one day, out of the clear blue, she asked, and when I told her, it just tore her all to pieces. And from there, it was like she was always saying, "I am gonna be a catalyst as far as, if you need anything." I said, "Girl, I'm good." And when she realized that I needed a kidney, then that's when she reached out to my daughter Zoe, and they started working on this thing behind the scenes without letting me know. And when they did that, the next thing I know, Joel Brown was calling me saying, "Yep, that's it right there." Matter of
wow.
fact, that was one of the pictures that I had sent Joel to post, and that was me in cosmetology. Probably
Well,
back in the office, and we were acting silly.
let's take a look at the story. Wow. One moment.
Now to a big update to a story we brought you back in March. A Wake Tech instructor desperately in need of a new kidney.
I spoke to that instructor 8 months
Hold on
ago,
one
along
moment,
with her student,
because
who relentlessly fought to give her the gift of life. After all these months, the kidney donation was today. We spoke again before the pair went into surgery.
Yeah, I'm extremely thankful because it is happening Thanksgiving week.
Thankful, grateful, Valerie Bishop told us she's filled with all the fools as she heads into kidney transplant surgery alongside her Wake Tech cosmetology student, Carrie Fisher.
I'm not doing it for accolades. I'm doing this because I have the ability to save someone's life.
It's surreal in that sense. I guess, like I said, it just seems like a whole big dream, but through the whole scheme of things, I owe her my life.
It's been a long road since we introduced you to Valerie and Carrie back in March. Valerie, the beloved Wake Tech cosmetology instructor suffering from stage 5 renal failure.
Now I can barely walk my dog because you get winded.
Her kidneys failing rapidly.
It puts stress on other organs. They told me, worst case scenario, if you die, it wouldn't be your kidneys that failed you. It would probably be your heart or something else.
She's not my friend. She's family.
Carrie describing her kidney donor journey as grueling. After UNC Health ruled them a match for donation, Carrie had to lose over 40 pounds to get her BMI in line for surgery, plus the endless blood draws and CAT scans. Not to mention, Carrie was still working to graduate from Wake Tech and balance her donor responsibilities with her new hairstylist job and some understanding bosses at a Raleigh Sports Clips. Then came the donor decision from Chapel Hill doctors the pair did not want to hear.
I got denied through UNC. Their decision was that it was too much of a risk for me and they didn't feel safe moving forward. Well, if you remember from last time, I don't take no for an answer.
She's been consistent. She has been nagging. But that is Carrie.
They finally found a yes in Winston-Salem. Wake Forest Baptist Hospital is doing the kidney transplant.
It went from wait. Hey, you're going to have surgery in 3 weeks.
Right now, I'm somewhere like, okay, I'm getting a kidney. I'm actually in like 48 hours, 72 hours, I'm getting a kidney.
It's happening.
Yeah, and it still hasn't hit me yet. So
Still hasn't hit you.
it hasn't hit me yet.
It's a 5-hour-long surgery,
There's a surgery right before us.
making for the most unique Thanksgiving week ever.
Even the doctors were trying to do it a week earlier and, didn't want to have it in the holiday. I said, it doesn't matter. That's a blessing. Even though if I have to have dinner right there in the hospital, it's okay.
It means we don't have to cook.
You will not have to cook this Thanksgiving. Carrie went into surgery at 9:15 this morning. Valerie.
So that is truly amazing. I can't even imagine how that felt to have someone to want to do something like that. I mean, when she first came to you, what was that like when she first came to you and said, "I want to do this for you"?
I'm gonna tell you how that started, and I'm so glad the way we're kind of flowing with this whole interview. So thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you so much for just taking the time for having me. I do want to say that support system, and I'm going to come back to that support system, but I just wanted to start how this whole process kind of got started. Carrie found out, like the rest of my students found out, I had to start having a lot of doctor's appointments, and Mondays were my best days to have my appointments because that was the day I had to be at work the least, like for 3 hours. So sometimes I would just have somebody else to sub for me, or I would just give them a written assignment. So when I would come back on Tuesday, they would be like, so what's going on with you? You know, students are nosy. And I guess they were comfortable with me as well because I'm a very open, warm person, and I keep it real with them. So they're just like, so what's going on with you? And I say, well, you know what? I have kidney disease. So what that means, I said, I'm actually going into kidney failure and I need a transplant. And they were just paused. And then Carrie, in the back of her mind, it was already click, 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 click. And it wasn't even probably by the end of the week, she's like, I want to be your donor. I said, excuse me? I said, well, you can't be my donor. She said, why not? Because I'm white? I said, girl, bye. No, that ain't got nothing to do with it. Because it's a whole process with matching blood type, matching tissues. The tests are rigorous, and the fact that they want to verify that even psychological testing, they want to make sure that I wasn't pressuring you to do it. And it was so much to it. So I was fear factor, like, no, I don't want it to look like there's going to be an issue because it's me and you and all that. I said, I tell you what, if you really, because she kept on saying that to me a couple of times, I said, do your homework. You do your homework and you get back with me. And the one reason why I think she was mature enough and she understood the assignment so well, because she was an older student where she was in her early 40s. So either late 30s or early 40s. So that to me had a lot to do with it too, in the sense of, well, she's grown, she's married. So, this is the decision. If she knows she want to do it, she'll do it. Well, by the time I said, do your homework, it was maybe 24, 48 hours later. She said, I did my homework. I have to speak to a transplant counselor. We have separate counselors. Oh, she knew all the details and did this and do this. I said, well, okay, well, you go for it then. I did not think she was going to actually follow through with it until I saw time and time again all the different struggle, different obstacles that she had to come through and get faced with. Because the crazy thing was, because I was in such good health, I didn't have any issues, none whatsoever. Because they could have told me no, I wasn't a good fit. But with her, the first thing they stopped at was weight. Your BMI has to be less than 30%. Duke and Chapel Hill are some of the most stringent ones as far as the weight piece and things of that nature. And so she lost the weight. Then 6 months later, they say, okay, well, we got another concern. Or we got, okay, looks like everything's a go now. And then they waited until like the 12th hour in August of 2022 to tell us, no, you don't fit the criteria. And I said, you know what, Carrie, don't worry about it. I'll find somebody else. It's okay. Because by this time now, I had just started dialysis. And let me tell you, I held off from doing dialysis a whole year later. Because remember, I was already at 16, 17% in 21. 22, my birthday, June month, I was around 4% functioning. What shifted my thinking to say, Val, don't be stupid. Start dialysis, because you got to have something to filter out the toxins in your body. My other group of a family, as far as my support system, was my hometown, Cove City. Yes, it's a little small country town, flashing light. When I say they came and they did the thing, they raised a fundraiser in that April. They did T-shirts, and I got to show and send a shout out. Let me stand up real quick. These are the T-shirts they were selling. Friends don't let friends fight kidney disease alone. So, and green, of course, is the color of Kidney Disease Month. So they were selling T-shirts. They were collecting money. They were doing a little bit of everything. Lauren Gatlin, Darty Mitchell, Jonette Freeman, and I'm trying to think. It was so me and Lisa. It was so many people that were engaged in building. I didn't even know how big it was. And they were like, Val, we got a fundraiser for you. Get down here. Okay. And so from my hometown people, and there was one person there, a former classmate. She was there with her husband, and that really touched me. That's what got me, because he was on dialysis and he had it where he was doing the hemo out of his arm. She said, Val, listen to my husband. He's got a story to tell you.
Oh my
He was
goodness.
he was at 4% functioning, just like I was. However, they were in Vegas and they were just walking down the strip and he passed out. That could have been me. He said, when I passed out, he said, that didn't give me the opportunity to do peritoneal or anything else. When you pass out, you're close to death. They had to do the shunt here. And since then, from there, it went straight to his arms. She said, this is what I don't want you to experience.
Let me ask you a question in case there's somebody watching. Is there any sign or symptom? You said pass out. Is there anything that someone may see with a loved one or experience that would make them know to go get a test for their kidney?
I'm going to tell you some of my symptoms, and then some of the symptoms that they have listed. Changes in your urine, swelling in your legs, ankles, and around your eyes. Tiredness and fatigue was my biggest one. Also getting lightheaded, like if you know how you would bend over to pick up something and then everything just started spinning. I'm like, wait a minute, it wasn't like this before. I also started where I could cut my grass. I have a very small yard. I could cut the grass. I would get this tightness in my chest, like I was almost having a heart attack or I was having an asthma attack, and not knowing if it was for something else, because I was also experiencing menopause. So I didn't know, I couldn't differentiate my menopause symptoms from the kidney symptoms. And so kidney trumped everything. Nausea, loss of appetite, high blood pressure, because like they said, the most common way most people get it, their blood pressure is off, or their urine is off, meaning when you go to the bathroom, it will be real foamy. It'll get real. You're like, where's all this foam? You don't pay attention sometimes, but there's a different, like you'll see foam if you pee, but no, this is like big bubbles, it gets real foamy. That's nothing but excess protein that's in your urine. If you got symptoms like that, cramping, anything like that, your blood pressure, if it's always elevated, get checked. Those are the easy signs. Say, you know what, check my blood, check my creatine level, check my EGR levels, and just see where I'm at. So getting regular blood testing is major.
So I'm glad you said the specific test, because sometimes if a person goes to the doctor or emergency room when they want to fall out or something, then they don't know what to ask for. So, and sometimes they'll describe what they went through, because it's not always hereditary, right?
No, mine wasn't. I don't have kidney disease that runs in my family. Again, I didn't have a history of high blood pressure, but again, high blood pressure is phenomenal amongst Black people. That's what they say. So that's why they have it listed as being Black, Native American, or Asian. Your age, smoking, obesity, things like that could also be an onset of it. But for me, it was totally out of left field.
Now, the other thing I love about the donation, and the young lady was not African American, that's a beautiful story, because there's still hope where people see beyond the skin color. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so that's a beautiful story where people.
And when I say, like you said, it wasn't one type. The donations, and to get back to finish up what we were talking about. So yeah, you got my hometown. That was an array of folks. You got your families, close friends. And then when it was on, what was that? The fundraiser. Because another thing I deal with, and you know, it is what it is short-term memory loss. So little short, simple words. I still struggle with that. So sometimes you'll see me, I'll use other words, just trying to think of a simple word and I can't get it. But when it was posted on the GoFundMe, I was getting donations from people I had never seen or heard from in my life.
Because they related to your story. See, that's the thing.
To my story.
People connect with stories. They connect with things that they can relate to because of a family member or something, or their own personal, stories. So that's why. And so that's a beautiful thing. Now, y'all are still close. Did that bring y'all closer? Did y'all bring it?
It did. because it was like, I'm not gonna lie, Carrie was like one of my average students, and I'm cordial to all my students, and she was kind of, we didn't never click like that, but we were always like, well, Miss Bishop, I go on and just do that right there, Carrie, you know what to do, and we would talk and have short conversation. But now, because of this, it's a whole different gamut. Of course, it was so funny, meeting her parents. God bless, I keep her in my prayers. She lost her dad this past summer. I got a chance to know her parents. I even, spoke at her dad's memorial service. We keep up like that.
Yes, yes,
She
yes.
hit me up a couple of weeks back and said, "Hey, I'm taking righty. That's her other kidney that she has left because I have lefty.
Oh,
I'm taking righty to Disney World. I hope you don't mind because we're going." I said, "Hey, fine." So we laugh and joke about stuff like that all the time.
so a person can function with one kidney.
Absolutely.
And people sometimes, family members that may be a match, sometimes they may not fully understand that they can do it. And I know people want to donate, or sometimes people don't, but I just want to ask that so you can explain that. And I know you're not a doctor or nothing, but people can function with one kidney. So if you have a family member and you feel like you want to do that, you can still function. And you are as close to, I'm going to say not normal, but close to, when it comes to physically being able to do things as though you had to, would you say?
Yes, and when you're talking about the compatibility and doing the transplant, I think that's a big piece that I said I would love to campaign and help people to understand a little bit better, because here I'm getting a kidney from a Caucasian 40-year-old white female. It doesn't matter. The two things that are most important is blood type, tissue type. And what some people fail to realize, you can go through your whole family and don't find nobody that's a match. I'm bringing up a quick story that I just heard last week. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm wrong, y'all please forgive me and correct me. It is the chancellor at Livingston College, if I'm not mistaken. At the end of commencement, he put a cry out there for he needs a transplant. And
Wow.
he's already on dialysis. I think he's been on dialysis for a year. He's gone through his whole family. And the issue with him is he is O positive, which is a very rare blood type. He can
Yeah.
only don't get somebody else that is O positive as well.
Guess
And
what?
then you got to try to match the tissue.
I know about that because I'm O positive.
Wow.
I'm O positive. My firstborn is O positive. Yep. Because I didn't realize how rare it was. And then I try to keep that paperwork down there so I know. So that's a touchy story there. So O positive people have a harder time if something happens because it's not too many people out there. So O negatives definitely can't help.
Yes.
It's not a match. Wow. So he put a plea out at the graduation.
Yeah, it's like after the ceremony, he just shared his story. And I guess because his plight has been going on for so long, you get to a point where you're like, I want to live, I don't want to die. And apparently with his situation, what I'm understanding is that dialysis is not enough anymore for him. So that's why his plea. I know we see people that have been on dialysis for years and years and years. And that's the thing. If you've been on dialysis for an extremely long period of time, they almost don't want to consider you for transplant anymore, because they feel like, I don't know, it's something about it after a while. But if you're early on and you only been on dialysis for a few years, whatever, you're still a good match, because and then you have that whole piece of getting a deceased kidney versus a living kidney.
Oh wow, what's the difference there? Now talk about
Yeah,
that.
that's what I say. It's so much to it. Well, a deceased kidney, of course, is something that you would get, unfortunately, from somebody that either got in a car accident or they just unfortunately died or passed, or it could have been even from an infant kidney.
Wow.
And from a deceased kidney, they have so many hours that they can move that kidney, airlift it to that hospital, and 9 times out of 10, you don't have time to think about it. It's either yes or no, because they have a very, very small window. And most of the time they talk about how those transplants end up being at night. Well, the difference with that and like how I got a living kidney, and they said it's a little bit where the chances of that living kidney lasting just a little bit longer, because your life expectancy for both are still extremely good, but it is a little bit longer for a living kidney. Living kidney is because we have time to do tests, compatibility, all that. With the deceased kidney, you're only doing you're doing a few tests, and if the main things match up, they go for it.
And
So,
that's where on the form, when you go to get your driver license, they ask you if you will donate your kidney. So
yes.
had you always been a person to say yes, or
Yes.
had your decision changed? So you were always a yes anyway.
I was a donor anyway. You know, even when I didn't even understand it fully, I was like, hey, maybe I can help somebody else out. So, and that's how I just looked at it. And now I'm a big advocate for it now. A lot of people still are scared about it, you know, especially Black folks. They say, oh, I was born with 2 kidneys, I'm gonna die with 2 kidneys. Hey, you know, it makes you look at, when you go through some things, it makes you look at things a little bit different.
It
really
does. It does. Now, I don't want you to think I forgot about what you were doing when you said you wanted to go back and you wanted to acknowledge the support you got from here. And let me ask you something. Is your daughter also, did she pledge too?
Absolutely. Y'all know better. She actually played, and that was just so a blessing. She ended up crossing Mu Omicron spring 2023, so 2 years ago, before she graduated.
I think I saw something there. I think I saw a picture with that on your page. You know, I went around looking and I said, wait a minute. Is that her?
That's her. And that was actually at graduation. And so that was us they had just sung the sweetheart song. And I said, let's get a quick pic before we go to the next graduation. Because you know, you got your department graduates. Yeah.
Oh,
so
my
she,
goodness.
you know, and the thing was, she knew nothing about sorority life. So she learned it all about me, because I ended up doing it in grad at the grad chapter in 2017. And when I say the support that I have gotten from my sorors, 0 to none. I mean, they set up a whole thing when they found out I was getting the transplant. Cynthia Daniel Williams, she set up a chart so everybody can go in and sign up, because it was all these stipulations. After you have the transplant, you have to go back to the hospital what was it? I started off twice a week. So mind you, Carrie was denied at Duke. She was denied at Chapel Hill. She was denied at Atrium Health in Charlotte. ECU, I can't remember if she even tried ECU or not, because it only left 2 more in the state, because there's only 5 institutes in the state that will do kidney transplants. So it left ECU and Wake Forest Baptist. I started getting feedback from other friends and family, like Kim Gaddy and some other people that told me, Val, phenomenal. You will be very, very pleased with them. I said, okay. And so Wake Forest Baptist is pretty much the hospital for Wake Forest University. And so with that being said, they moved like a Jedi. I contacted them August the 9th. I told them the situation. They said, send us your paperwork. They looked at my paperwork, all my testing. They said, who is the donor? And I said, this is her. She then turned around, sent all her testing, looking at what they were saying no to. And they said, you know what? They said, we think we might be able to still do it. It doesn't seem like it's a major issue. They went on, they did the testing, they checked everything, and they said, you know what, to fix the issue we have with Carrie, we'll just put her on some blood thinners for a little while, and that'll rectify the problem. And that's what they did. And so they maneuvered that thing. We did all the testing that we needed to do for them in September. By October, they were like, set a date, because we having surgery. I said, excuse me. They moved like that. And they're one of the hospitals that I did not realize that they do the largest number of transplants. So, so that's one of those hospitals that kind of go under the radar sometimes if you don't hear about it, because everybody always thinks about Duke and Chapel Hill, and then sometimes ECU. So yeah. But yeah, getting back to the Deltas, let me say this real quick. They set up a whole food thing. So it was like you had Sarah's bringing me breakfast, lunch, dinner. So I didn't go hungry. They had my line sisters, they had it on lockdown as far as, oh, I'm driving her this day. Oh, okay, well, I'm driving her this day. I'm driving her next week. I didn't, I needed, and I'm the type, I don't ask. And my ace told me, she said, Val, humble yourself and appreciate what God is blessing you with.
Right.
Hard worker. Just accept it as is.
Yeah, that's a blessing. And I just want to say, because a lot of them have popped in here. I see y'all popping in. By all means, send a comment. You can put a comment. There's a comment box. You can say hello, Val. If you're a student, if you're a co-worker, if you're a Sarah, you can write a comment and then she can see it and I can let her know that you're here. Because I meant to say that earlier. I did say it earlier, but I'm going to repeat it so that y'all know. If you want to affirm something that she said, or if you were one of the drivers or you were one of the cooks, by all means.
If I done lied about something, correct me. Charge it to my head and not my heart. I try to be as accurate because I'm an open book about this story. I don't know why God just laid it on my heart to share it as we went through it. And I hope to God, and I feel like it did bless a lot of people. Because the journey is definitely, like I said, some people, we can make things look so easy. And like you said, you do suffer on the back end sometimes with things. And even now, I still have to be diligent about my meds because you're on meds for the rest of your life.
Okay.
I started off on like 33, 34 pills a day.
Okay.
And now
it's down
now to maybe half that, to about 14. The Temacrolus and the Myfortic and the Prednisone are my main three. And of course, you got your multivitamins and you have some other things, anti-viral meds that you take. And I have to be mindful of my work environment. That's another issue. I wanted to go back to work. However, because we got to work, got to pay bills. But the thing is, I have to be mindful because the doctors say, Val, you don't need to be in that environment where you're in people's face all the time. And so I do catch colds easily, where I never caught a cold before. It's like every 90 days I'll get sick. Sometimes so you do have still little side effects, but when I say overall, you just push through.
Now, so Beth popped in and Beth said, I'm so happy that Val is still around to bless us. She's definitely one of the good ones, And yes, so said that.
She's a former student.
Oh, that's so nice. Now, that's a blessing when a student pops in and still connected.
When I said that's what really, when it first started out, I was floored. I was hearing from students I hadn't heard from, because I started teaching at Wake Tech in 2012. I was hearing from students back from when I first started teaching.
When they saw
the story, when they started hearing things, even at the high school when I subbed, and I was only subbing for like a couple of weeks at a time, I was hearing accolades from them. I was just like, wow. I was so, people just assume that you're liked. Yeah. I don't assume. I don't take for granted, because you like who you like. Yes. I just have always been that type of person. I love to see people happy. I love to have fun. And most of the time I always have a smile on my face. So with that, and I'm real. I can't be nothing but what you see.
That's it. And I love that. You've always been that way. Let me ask you this. After going through that, is there anything that you would say to anyone watching that may have a family member going through dialysis or going through preparation for a kidney transplant, or just maybe just getting a diagnosis and trying to figure out if they want to share with their family? What would you say to that person, whether it's the family member supporting or the person who may be going through it and they don't have any support?
My thing is, I'm almost like the NC State coach. Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. That's my thing, because sometimes all we have is hope. We don't know where our help is going to come from. We don't know where your blessing is going to come from. And that was my thing. I didn't know Carrie was going to be that person that wanted to give me a kidney. In my mind, I had already said, somebody's going to give me a kidney, and I want a living kidney. That's right. I don't, nothing against the deceased kidney, because if that's what I get, that's what I get. I said, but my mindset after being educated on all the different things, I wanted the best scenario. And the best scenario, I said, I want to live in kidney. But it's about a mindset, and it's about your spirit, and not sitting. And yeah, you're going to have your moments, and you're going to cry, and you're going to do this, and you're going to woe is me. But then you got to come up. It's, some people say it's easier said than done. And I guess I've always been that person where, yeah, it is easier said than done, but I know how to put the face on. But then, you know, you come out of that whole mask, and it's like, okay, where are we at now? Where are we at now? But you got to stay encouraged, and sometimes you have to put it out there. Just like the chancellor from Livingston College. I think his goal was not to have to put it out there like that, but you're at the 13th hour. You don't want to die. You're like, I want to live. I feel like I got a little bit more to give. And having that faith of a mustard seed, because some people are like, well, if it's meant for me to die, I'm going to die anyway. I say, you know what? My thing is, yes, two things are for certain. We're going to live, we're going to live, and we're going to die. However, God put the doctors here for a reason. Is you educate yourself, you listen to what they say, and they share to you. You make a decision that will be based on facts and how you feel. You know, God gives you that inner spirit and discernment about certain things, and you're like, you know what, this is going to be the route for me. This is what I'm going to do. There are options out there. You don't have to stick with just one. A lot of people, especially our people, we stick with that one decision of, I'm going to just do dialysis, the hemo. I'm going to just go, you know, every 3 days and, you know, a week. And when you choose that route, that's fine. However, and then some people have no choice, and that's the only route they can go. And with that, it ties up so much of your time. And I guess because I have so much energy, I'm so always on 10 most of the time if I'm not tired. And even when I'm tired, I'm still pushing through. I said, God, I got to have diversity. I got to have, if I got to deal with this and I got to live with this, I want my best scenario of it. And my best scenario of it would be, okay, I'll deal with it in the privacy of my home. Nobody has to see me hooked up. But you know what? Even being hooked up and nobody seeing me, my line sister saw me. Because again, I was in Florida. I shipped my machine. I shipped. You can take all that with you. So my thing is, there are no limits unless you put limits on yourself. So I don't put limits on myself. You just look at that bigger picture. There's going to be always somebody, even if you have everybody in your family being negative and being a naysayer, you better not do this and you better not do that. Keep on looking, keep on searching. Stories like mine, reach out to me. I don't care. You can reach out to me and I'll be that encouraging one. After my surgery, I had people that said, Val, can I share your story? Absolutely. But it starts within with you. I can talk all day until my mouth is pasty and I lose my voice. But if you have not made up your mindset, like, you know what, these are the options. This is what because the resources are going to be out there. I didn't know how I was going to pay for the surgery. I didn't know what resources were out there. And it's a plethora of resources out there. The monies that were raised, GoFundMe, they helped tremendously because I wasn't working for 2 years. And, you know, even though you still get disability, it's only half of your income. You learn all these things after going through it. And you're like, how am I going to live off of half my money? You know, you know, all this, you be stressed out, and stress is the biggest factor. And I feel like me and my doctor, we talked about it. And that was one of the key things that we kept on coming back to. She said, for you, it could have been stress. Stress is a major, major factor to a lot of chronic diseases. And that's one that they should list officially on their website because it can happen. But just stay encouraged. You got to find your encouragement from somewhere. It's got to be somebody there, because, you know, everybody has that angel in a bush somewhere waiting for you to just reach out and say, I'm there for you, sis. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I appreciate you. I wanted to make sure I wasn't making noise while you were talking. I appreciate you for sharing that from a perspective of the recipient and the person going through it. But now, what about the family members that maybe don't understand your mood swings, don't understand what you're going through? Any message to the family members on how they can best serve and be supportive to the individual going through?
Just understand, you know, the kidney transplant doesn't make that person perfect. it makes us functional in a better, almost similar to what it was prior to all the health issues when it came about. Um, yeah, it's still going to be some little quirks and twerks to it. Just be patient with us. That's the biggest thing. Don't take anything personal. We're too old to be taking things personal, for real, because life is more important than anything else. There's so many people that have gone beyond, past us, that if we could just bring them back, you'll take on all their indiscretions. But we don't look at it while people are going through. Sometimes you still, like I said, like for me, and just being transparent, sometimes you still have kidney issues where there's pain. And for about 2 weeks there, I was experiencing a lot of pain, but nobody knew it because I was pushing through. I was worried because you could still get infection. You could still have some other things that's going on. Your numbers could start getting off. There could be some type of rejection. So that first 1 to 5 years is still very crucial to keeping up with your doctor's appointments and things of that nature. As that kidney recipient, let your family members know, look, my energy level still is not at 100%, but y'all just bear with me. I'm the type, I don't have a pity party. You have a pity party for 2.8 seconds, then you come back like, okay, let's do this thing. Hey, let's have fun. And I'm not looking for that sorrow. And a lot of people, they use the kidney transplant as their sorrow or their crutch. And that's what you don't want. However, you do have to keep it real with yourself.
Carrie Fisher said, hey, I know that kidney. Is that her?
Yes, you do, Carrie.
And she said, tell them about your new cravings. Carrie, yes. You know what? I would love that. Is that the young lady?
Yes, that is her.
Carrie, I would love to send you a link so you could join if you wanted to. I would welcome you to join if you wanted to. Valerie, you can send it to her if you have a phone number. If you wanted her to, that's up to you. Since she came, you can send her that same link I sent you and she could come in, and I would love for her to speak. That would be amazing.
I'm going to tell you, that craving that she's talking about, I did not want it at all. And she know I am pissed with her about it.
So is that really true? I mean, you really, she said, let me go get cute. She said, girl, you better be yourself. But
that was the thing.
You take on the person's taste buds or characteristics, something from the individual that gives you a kidney?
Well, you know what? It's not always. And I guess for us, we had a chance to develop a relationship. So I learned so much about her as well as she learned things about me. And that's the wonderful thing about a living kidney donation. You get to know your recipient inside and out. And then with us, it was even closer because I was her instructor. She was my student. So we saw each other on a regular basis. Carrie is a sweet junkie. She loves junk food.
Oh.
She loves caffeine. For me, caffeine would tear my stomach. It would just give me headaches, all that stuff. Sweets. I was never a big sweet person. I eat a piece of candy here and there. A piece of cake here and there. It was about maybe my kidney transplant was November. Around February, I was craving March. I started craving sugar, just pure sugar in the sense of Skittles.
Wow.
I would buy family bags of Skittles and eat it in a day or two. Then I would go from one thing to, I said, oh no, this is not going to work. And what was happening, my numbers were going off the Richter. It was throwing everything off. It was making my blood pressure higher. I ended up gaining, because in some of my pictures, last year this time, I was 65 pounds heavier. 65. Because you got to remember, there's a picture in May of last year. I was at my cousin's graduation, and I was like, I didn't even recognize myself. I said, that's me. But, I embraced it, but I just started wearing black, everything black. And it didn't seem like it was 65, but that was the heaviest I had ever been in my life. And it was from all the sugar. Wow. And so they told me, my doctor said, Val, we're telling you right now, your kidney was not based off of the extra weight gain. That can make it go into rejection mode. Okay, what we need to do. I surrender all, Jesus. What you need to do. Because it was like, and then too, I'm on prednisone, and prednisone just added on too, but I was only on 5 milligrams. So I said, Carrie, you killing me. She said, girl, you got my sugar, you got my sweet tooth. I said, no. This ain't gonna kill me. So my doctor ended up having to give me something for metabolic syndrome to kind of balance out all my levels, from my blood pressure to my weight gain to my this to my that. So now, after a year, it's kind of balanced everything out. I feel so much better, because even the shortness of breath was coming back. I said, oh no, we can't, that dog won't hunt. We got to fix this. So
Wow.
yeah, all that. So yeah, that was that transition. So she jokes me about that.
So here's a question. And there she is. She did come. Hey, I'm so excited that she's here. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hey, let me move this out the way from you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hello. 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 How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thank you so much for joining. You know, this is so rare. And when you got in the comments, I said, oh my goodness, if she will come up, I would love it, because what the world needs now is love, sweet love, right? That's what the song says. And they need to see more positive. They need to see more of this. You understand what I'm saying? They need to know it's still possible. They need to know we can coexist and we can do things and we can support one another. I want to tell you, young lady, you are blessed. You will be continuing blessed for what you did, for just having a heart and having compassion and wanting to help another human being outside of your family and being so selfless. I pray that God just continues to open doors for you and things just continue to come. The windows of heaven gonna open up for you so that you can receive.
Well, and you can ask Val. Whenever anybody says that, I'm like, whatever, shut up. I was just doing what I was raised to do. So
That's a blessing. That is such a blessing. Val has shared how this whole thing has touched her. How did it affect you, Miss Carrie? How did it affect you? Take me back to the day that you recognized that this was she your actual teacher then, when you got
yes.
the story, when you found out your teacher needed a kidney. How, I mean,
So did she tell you the whole story about how nosy and pushy I am?
I did.
Okay, so fair. I honestly just thought it was a simple blood test, and that I would go and they would be like, oh, you're a match. Oh, you're not a match. You know, something along those lines, that it was going to be simple. Lo and behold, it was not at all simple. It was very stressful. At no point did I say to myself, is this something I want to keep doing? But I definitely set some hard limits for myself. There was a huge weight loss that they were expecting, and I'm a big girl. There was no way I was about to get down to the body fat that they wanted me to be at. And I said, I will eat healthy. I will cut back on things like the sugar and the ice cream and all that stuff. I will cut back. But when I get to the point where I'm hating my life because this is what I'm eating is salads all day, that's a line. But it never got to that point, so we were fine.
Wow. Let me ask you this, because you were young. At the time when you made this decision, you were over 21.
Oh, well over 21.
Not like you had to go get permission from your parents, but how did your family, how did they receive it when you told them what you wanted to do?
Oh, my parents were the biggest cheerleaders. My dad even went up to Valerie and said, this is how we raised her. That's why. Whenever anyone that isn't part of my immediate family asks, oh my goodness, how did you make this decision? It's because that's what you do.
That's what you do.
Someone needs something and you can help, and it doesn't negatively affect you. You do what you can to help.
And how do you feel? How do you feel working with one kidney? How do you feel?
I feel fine. Like, I still do all of the things that I did with both kidneys. And I mean, yeah, Nothing in my life has changed.
Excellent. Now I do have one question for both of you, because I was in a I facilitated, okay, excuse me for being a tongue twister there, a event where there were people talking about being single, and one of the questions came up about, do you share your health condition, or do you share, or how soon do you share that with someone when dating? Do you tell them about your condition? So you ladies would be a perfect example, because we were trying to say people have to be honest when they're dating and they're out there. And then we said, well, how soon do you tell someone, well, if you're interested in me, let me just tell you this. So I would like to ask that question to you ladies. How soon do you share that information with someone that may be interested in dating you? Because this was a question that came up. And I'll let you go first, Valerie.
Yes, Valerie, you can go first with this.
Well, again, usually in the beginning, you're feeling somebody out, so it's like not like I'm advertising it right from the gate. However, as time goes on, and if you see that person is getting a little serious, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let you know now. I got health issues going on. You know, everything ain't perfect what you see on the outer part. And certain things you share it at levels.
Right.
I don't, you don't necessarily blurt it all out at one time. To me, I feel like your health information should be done at levels. Yeah, the kidney transplant, I think with me, I just assume everybody and their mama knows. And so, because it was already put out there on social media, so that I don't really keep it hidden, but I don't bring it up unless it becomes a deeper conversation. One thing I will say before I forget, you become, where our kidneys are located in the back, on our like lower back part. Well, now my new kidney is located in my lower right abdomen area.
Really?
Yeah, so your
They can
kidney,
switch the location. Wow, interesting.
yeah, because the surgery is so um dangerous to actually remove kidneys because of all the blood vessels and all the other things that are going on around there, and it's so deeply embedded. They actually leave those kidneys in and they test to see if they're still functioning to a certain degree, but then they place, and their preferred first side, notice I said first side, if you have to have your first kidney transplant, is that lower right. And when you say lower right, you're talking like your lower right here. So I'm very protective of that area because your kidney is very superficial. It's, on that upper part. I don't necessarily feel it, because I thought mentally the way they described it, I would feel it sitting there, or it was gonna be a bulge. But for me, it's not a bulge. But I guess, when somebody see me in a bathing suit or in underclothes or something like that, and you'll see the scars.
Okay.
My scars don't make me, honey. So it doesn't bother me, not one bit. But I will share it because somebody say, "Oh, what happened?" or whatever the case may be.
I like what you said about the levels. Now, do you agree with that, Carrie? You share in levels, like.
Well, I'm happily married at 10 years, so I ain't telling nobody nothing.
Well, that's
But
good. That's good.
that being said, we recently went on a cruise for the first time, and I'm going around the Bahamas with my little bathing suit on, and my scar is just as long as Val's is, and people will be like, "Oh, what happened?" Like they think something tragic happened to me, and I mean, I'll tell anybody.
Oh,
Like,
that's a blessing. That's such a blessing. Well, listen, Carrie, I'm not going to keep you. I just wanted to really just give you your flowers and tell you thank you. And I will give you the opportunity, if you would like to say something to individuals that may come back and watch this later, about what it feels like to do this is like the biggest good deed you could possibly do, is to give somebody an organ from your body. And you said something, you said this is how your parents raised you. And not only that, but another race, you know what I'm saying? And with what's going on in the world today, anything that you would like to say to people out there who may second guess this or not really fully understand why this is so important?
my whole thing is that we are all the same color on the inside. My kidney works just as fine in Val's body as it does in mine. People need to just be people. And we need to see each other as that and not what the color of our skin is, what our creed is, what our orientation is. If you have something and you can help somebody and you can do it without being detrimental to yourself, then you should really think long and hard and you should do it. It's not that hard. It's how we should act, how we as human beings should act.
Yes, wow, that's amazing. Well, I want to thank you, ladies, for sharing this story. I mean, this is amazing, Carrie. Thank you for coming in and popping in and joining. Val's story is so inspirational. It is important that I feel that we share our testimony because it can help someone. She shared a lot of things tonight about not just the process, about how it came about with you. We saw the news story. I shared that. The whole process of when she got diagnosed, when she first started going through symptoms, and then to have you come on, that is just it validates everything. Not that we doubted it, but it just lets people see it's real. It can happen, guys. So even in the midst of everything in 2025 that we see, all the negativity, please understand there's still room for us to love one another, support one another, encourage one another, and be there for one another. So you witnessed it right here on Storytime tonight on May 14th. So thank you so much, Carrie, for doing that. Anything you want to say before we close this out, Carrie?
Well, again, I know Val had been talking about it, and I'm sorry that I missed the beginning, but she was even thinking of stepping down from her position before I was in her class. So all the little pieces fell into place. The fact that I am somebody from a totally different area, yes, a different race, I was an exact match.
Wow.
Like, I don't know what the odds are, but to have you go into a program with a donor and a recipient and have them be an exact match on the first try, I don't think that happens often outside of family.
Yes.
So that's it was
and
meant to
outside of
be.
the race, outside of family and outside of the race. So that's very good. Thank you for saying that, so people understand it can happen. So if you were limiting your options, if you're out there and you need a transplant and you need a kidney, open up the gates. You know what I'm saying? Look and receive from others because it's possible. Don't be so closed-minded. And I can see that you have an awesome spirit. So thank you so much for sharing.
But I can't give any more kidneys, so don't ask.
No more. That's it. I'm sure
you're cut off. You're cut off.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for popping in. I'm gonna let Valerie close it out because we've been here for a while. So I don't want to keep it too long. Valerie, any closing comments you want to make to the people? Thank you so much for sharing everything that you've shared. I pray for you that you continue to, both of you ladies, continue to have a healthy life and be able to just do all the things you want to do, and that you don't have any limitations, and that you have all the desires of your heart. But Val, any closing comments that you'd like to make? You're muted, hun. Hit the mute, unmute
There
yourself.
we go. But look, I had to get my life together. First of all, Crystal, I want to thank you for being persistent like Carrie. And so you could get this story out there. I know I was a little slow about filling everything out. And sometimes that's just me being all over the place. But I thank you so much for being persistent. Then I felt like, oh, my story, this was a couple of years ago. Nobody probably wants to hear it. And but I said, you know what, go through it because it might help one person. If it helps one person, that's all it needs to help. I like what Carrie said. If we wouldn't worry about all the other things when it comes to race, creed, color, and all that. Sharon is Karen. We are all, if you notice, for us to be an exact match and our skin color is totally different. She's cream, I'm chocolate. Okay. But on the inside, we're all still the same. That lets you know how God works in his divine intervention. all of us within have the same working body parts. And when you open up that window and stop and take those blinders off and realize my help can come from all the way in Korea, Timbuktu, wherever. You don't know who will be there for you to support you. And so with that being said, again, thank you to everybody. And I do mean everybody, from my hometown to my sorority, to my family, to my friends, to my students, former, and of course the former again, because I'm not teaching anymore. People working with me, the doctors, Wake Forest Baptist, everybody, my close friends, my close circle, my immediate family, my daughter Zoe, she know I love her infinity. Strangers, thank you. If I forgot anybody, again, charge it to my head and not my heart. I am here if you have any questions. I'm always on social media, but just reach out and know that somebody does care and somebody's there to support you always.
How can they reach you on social media? How can they reach you on social media?
Well, right now it's just through social media like Facebook.
Facebook,
and if they want to
find your name, tell them how they can reach you on Facebook.
Facebook, if Lord, I don't even know what,
Valerie
just my
Bishop.
name, Valerie Bishop.
Valerie Bishop. And
9 times out of 10, I'll pop up first. I know there are multiple Valerie Bishops, but I'll probably pop up first. And message me, send me a message in Messenger. Let me know, hey, I have questions about kidney disease or kidney transplant or being a donor or anything like that. So just, I don't mind sharing that knowledge. What I know, I'm still learning. It's so much to know.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Storytime. I am your host, Crystal, and my mission is to stir up the gift, instill hope, and save lives. And I always say, keep hope alive. And if you have a story, your story matters. So be sure to get in contact with us and share your story. Share this with somebody that you know needs to watch this. It will be available for the replay and you'll see it out there. I want to thank you, Valerie, so much. I want to say I'm so proud of you for all that you have done. Once again, it's so good to meet you, Carrie, and blessings to you both for doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back on Sunday. So be sure to just go back. Check out the channel, Storytime with Y'all Crystal, and scroll through the live. You may find a story that you can resonate with, all right? Blessings and peace to you all. And I always say, keep hope alive. And we'll see you on the next Story Time. Thank you, guys.
A catalyst for change with the chance to thrive. Crystal is the one to stir up gifts and save lives. You get exposure, promotion, and marketing too. And advertise for business owners just like you. On Storytime, your interview is global. Virtual or in person, just come on the show. Yo, your story matters. Crystals will open the door. 40 years of experience, ready to give you more on Storytime. Get ready for Storytime. Hey, come on.